Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Well, Star Trek Picard episode 3 of season 2 has hit our screens and it is continuing the theme of time travel and a really good story. I'm thoroughly enjoying this season so far. It's taking us on a really wild ride. And episode 3 was certainly more of the good storytelling that we've had in the first 2 episodes of the season. And it's really shaping up to be an interesting season so far. We had some dogfights, some bit of space action. We had some phaser fights. We've got some time travel going on. We've got all sorts of things in this episode. It certainly didn't disappoint. Episode 3 was entitled Assimilation and obviously refers to the plugging of the Borg Queen in and utilising her as a means of transporting themselves to the past in this episode. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please go ahead, click that big red button to stay up to date and current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. So much stuff going on at the moment. Make sure you don't miss out on any of it. And let's get into our review of episode 3 of Star Trek Picard season 2. So after dispatching the security team fairly effortlessly, I thought they might have had to put up a bit more of a fight with this team with the magistrate and the 2 security officers having taken over the ship, but they kind of dealt with that pretty quickly at the beginning of this episode. It was good to see some familiar ships in our little dogfight chase away from the Earth in this opening where we had the 2 Nova-class ships and a Steamrunner-class ship in pursuit of La Sirena as they headed towards the sun to do their little slingshot maneuver around the sun there. So yeah, it was good that we're seeing a little bit of continuity in ships and so forth in Star Trek this season. One thing that was interesting to see in our opening credits was what better person to have direct a time travel based episode than Marty McFly's mum. That's right, Lee Thompson, who played Lorraine McFly in the Back to the Future series, directed this episode, which was kind of a nice little, time travel nod. And what came as one of the biggest shocks of this episode to me was the fact that poor old Elnor didn't make it. I thought Elnor was in trouble, but I thought he's taken the phaser shot to the sort of shoulder. I thought a few maybe Borg nanoprobes or something, could stitch him up again. But no, he snuffed it. Poor old Elnor. I couldn't believe it. I'm guessing that, once they correct the timeline, Elnor will be back with us again. But that being said, that kind of means that we're probably not going to see poor old Elnor back in Star Trek Picard until what I'm guessing is the last episode of the season. And it was fun to see the slingshot around the sun maneuver. Obviously, we'd seen that a few times before in Star Trek, executed by Kirk and crew, most recently with the Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. There was a lot of Voyage Home kind of vibes in this episode, I found. Not only just the slingshot around the sun maneuver to get them back in time, but also, little things in terms of them hanging out in LA and, the fact that, Rios made a friend with Dr. Teresa. Kind of reminded me a lot of Kirk's relationship that he had with Edith Keeler, Kirk's friend Dr. Gillian Taylor in Star Trek 4 Voyage Home. Again, another doctor friend. Rios has got a doctor friend, Dr. Teresa. Kirk had his doctor friend, Dr. Gillian in Star Trek 4. So there's a few nice little kind of, nods and similarities to the 4th Star Trek film and this season of Star Trek Picard. Now, before long, our crew has to kind of split up. We end up getting Picard and Girardi working on bringing the Borg Queen back, whilst Raffi and Seven and Rios go and try to seek the Watcher. The Borg Queen has said that we need to seek the Watcher that's going to help them fix the issues in the timeline. But we don't know who the Watcher is and we don't know where the Watcher is. So it's basically their mission to locate this Watcher. So I found the whole notion of Girardi being the one that ends up having to be assimilated an interesting course in the storyline here. I initially thought, well, surely Picard he's gone through it before. He knows what to expect. He can navigate all the twists and turns, having been assimilated before. But apparently, because he's been past assimilated, she'd hook into him into a second because he's a kind of a former drone. I get the explanation. It's sort of a little bit maybe a little bit convenient explanation, but I kind of get it. Whereas obviously new drones take a lot longer. There's, harder work to be done there to get them into the system. So I guess for this reason, it makes Girardi, a more logical choice. I love Girardi as a character. She's so quirky and quippy and everything that I think there's obviously a lot of humour to be had in terms of her integrating with the Borg Queen, and obviously the scene where she was going through all the different emotional states from humour to anger to sadness and everything was quite fun. And just, her and the Borg Queen speaking back and forth, that kind of stuff would be more interesting and a new spin on things rather than, I guess, just having Picard plugged in again, because we've kind of, I guess, gone down the whole Picard being Locutus road or whatever. And I guess Patrick Stewart probably didn't want to go down that road again. So let's keep it fresh and do something interesting and have Girardi be the one who's assimilated. So yeah, that was a fun new take on things and I enjoyed it. When Rios and Raffi and Seven get beamed into LA, I thought, what's going to happen? I actually thought about, are they all going to end up in weird, places location-wise? Because I'm obviously, if the La Serena crashed in France at Picard's sort of vineyard location and they have to beam to LA on the other side of the planet, there's no orbital, transporter, redirectors or anything at this time frame. So they had to kind of allow for Earth rotation or something in order to do it, which is why things kind of got a bit messed up and Rios ended up beaming into sort of thin air and falling to the ground from a great height. He took quite a hard fall too. It's like, ooh, like, yeah, that was kind of painful to watch. And we also saw in this episode, we had some connections in the background when Seven and Raffi appeared in the sort of slum district where the homeless people are and everything in LA. In the background, we saw a sort of sanctuary district signs. So this obviously links back to that Deep Space Nine episode where they went back in time to 2024. We see the same sanctuary districts and everything as we did in that DS9 episode. So that was kind of a nice connection back to that. We obviously saw this Europa mission billboard in the background as well. So I'm guessing this Europa mission is going to come into things a little bit more too in terms of the direction that humankind is headed in, and how this Europa mission, because you don't just stick big billboards in the background with this big Europa mission thing for nothing. That obviously has to play into the plot somehow. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of connects to our storyline overall. I love the scene between Seven and Raffi climbing the tower to get the tricorder scan done and having to kind of sweet talk their way past the security guard to get to the right spot by sort of telling him they need to take a selfie or a photo or whatever on the tower. And I like the fact that Seven's really quite shocked at her own ability to schmooze with people, because obviously she's not used to warming people the right way, as she said in this scene that she's not used to people liking her. So you can sort of see that the fact that she hasn't got her Borg implants, again, where she's in the ship and she's touching her forehead where her implants used to be in the mirror, she's sort of maybe freeing herself up a little bit in terms of not having the Borg implants in. She's not quite as drone-like as she can be in the past, and is getting a little bit loosen up a bit. I think in this new body that she's in. The scenes in the medical clinic with Dr. Teresa, I think were quite nice. I think it's good that we're establishing an ally in the 21st century in the form of Dr. Teresa. There's always got to be one person, I think, who's the grounding connection in that timeline that they can kind of work with and so forth. And I enjoyed the story about Rios going to Starfleet Academy where his mum worked or whatever, and hopping in the flight simulator and beating all the high scores and all that sort of stuff. I think that was a nice story and kind of gave us a little bit of an insight as to his childhood and how he became, a good pilot and everything. And it was also a sweet scene between Rios and a little kid who'd found his comm badge on the ground, negotiating to get it back using a plate of cookies as a bargaining chip. There's some really nice light moments in this season, and I got to say, the thing I'm enjoying most about this season so far is the tone of the show isn't as dark as it was last season. We're not dropping F-bombs every episode. We're not getting people's eyeballs ripped out of their bloody heads every 5 minutes in this season of the show. And I'm actually watching this season with all my family. So whereas obviously last season was a bit too graphic for younger members of the family to watch, I think this season the tone is definitely, you know, more of that PG-13 kind of vibe, as opposed to the R-rated or NC-17 rated moments that were in our last season. And I love the little switcheroo that Jurati was able to do on the Borg Queen in terms of getting her rebooted and back up online again, but at the same time she's managed to pull a few nuggets of information out of her in the process and find out the location for the Watcher. They don't know when the divergence in the timeline is going to take place yet. That's still a little bit of information that's escaping them, but at least they know where to find this Watcher person. I like the little, you know, sneaky extraction of info that Jurati did in this episode. And it was very telling, I think, that the Borg Queen was impressed by her. I think this is going to play into aspects later on in the season where maybe the Borg Queen has her eye on Jurati to, you know, become another queen or something, you know. But there's certainly elements there that Jurati should probably be very worried about. And in the end, obviously, the medical clinic got raided by immigration officers, and Rios and the doctor, Teresa, and, you know, everybody was sort of getting hauled away by the cops. So yeah, they're obviously in a bit of a pickle at the moment, which we'll have to see them get out of that in obviously next episode. And I'm interested to see how much involvement Dr. Teresa is going to become as a local guide or a local, you know, helping hand, so to speak, in our heroes achieving their mission this season. All in all, I think this was a really good episode. I'm really enjoying the progress of the season so far. I think it's been really interesting, really captivating. I think all of the scenes have been great. We've had some really nice harkbacks to other Star Trek episodes involving time travel. We've got the slingshot thingo going on. We've got similarities to Star Trek 4 and all that sort of stuff. It's shaping up to be a really good season. And even though we're only 3 episodes in, I think it's really hitting its stride now. And I'm already enjoying this season, you know, more than the previous season. Even though I thoroughly enjoyed the first season, I think the second season has just risen the bar up a notch again. So apart from killing poor old Elnor, he got killed. But yeah, I'm sure once they fix the problems in the timeline, he'll be back again, what I'm guessing in probably the last episode of the season. So yeah. Guys, as always, please leave a super thanks if you're able to. It really helps the channel out. Much appreciated. Like and comment. Share this video with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And check out my merch in the merch store where you can pick up, you know, cool Star Trek t-shirts. I've got this one, which is one of my most popular ones, but I've now added the Enterprise for Strange New Worlds and Pike on that one, so be sure to check that out. Free shipping at the moment. If you check out the merch store at the moment, it's free shipping for everything. So yeah, make sure you take advantage of that deal while you can. Guys, I'll see you very soon for my next video. I'll catch you soon.